But tonight I get the privilege of speaking to you about stress. Just turn it on. And being an Aussie, I love questions. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them, okay? And we are going to be quite interactive tonight. I want us to be really laid back. This is not church, this is a workshop. And I really want you to be able to learn from it as well. And if we can help you in any way, that's fabulous. But with the team afterwards, so Katie, you're here if you want to stand. Katie is a beautiful nurse from Newcastle in Sydney. And she runs pastoral care in her church, so she's great. She's lovely to talk to. Pastor Helen, that was just up here, is from around the Newcastle area as well, but she's been back and forth to Vanuatu for donkey's years and knows the culture and is the contact through which we came. So we're very happy to speak to you afterwards because we really, and we love you young people, we love the YWAMers, but we love everybody. Front row, good on you, Patricia. Love that. Okay, let's get into tonight. We are looking at coping with stress. So when we were trying to get reports about what has been going on in Vanuatu, there were reports coming out that domestic violence has increased. The number of assaults has increased, and the amount of theft has increased. Why? Because people are stressed. Yeah, they've gone through a major earthquake, which so many people that went through it were traumatized. And then now they're dealing with recovery, they're dealing with the main street gone. We don't have the billabong shops to go shopping anymore. The major corporations are gone, so people are dealing with stress. And if we don't understand stress, and we don't realize we're going through it, we can't really conquer it. And whatever it is, whether it's the earthquake or life in general, things will cause us to be stressed. So I hope by the end of it, you learn something. So why do I actually love it? Well, that's 30 years ago. Do you remember me like that, Helen? That's my young-looking Italian husband there. And we have 3 kids who shrivel up whenever I show that picture. It's like, oh. Okay. But now they've given me grandchildren, all of them, so I'm very happy. But 30 years ago, John and I were pastoring in a place called Campbelltown in Sydney, and it was quite a demanding area. And I was running 4 departments in the church, and the church was growing quite rapidly. I also had these 3 little kids. I was also at that time speaking all over Sydney and doing stuff like that, and I was busy. I was over busy. But we didn't have mentors back then to say, what are you doing, Anne? So I thought, I'm doing God's work. And when I would get tired, I would say, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I totally abused the word of God like that. And so I would keep going. And it was all okay, but I started to get a sore throat here. And it began to feel really tight. And so I went to the doctors and he said, oh, you're probably fighting an infection, have some antibiotics. So I took it, but it was still getting tight. In fact, it was almost like it was choking me. And when I would do speaking like this, when I would stop, I would have lost my voice. And I might lose my voice overnight. It would come back the next day. So I went back to the doctor. He gave me another course of antibiotics. Then the 3rd time I went back to the doctor because it wasn't getting any better, the doctor said, I think it could be something else. I'm sending you to a specialist. So I went off with John one day to the specialist and he talked to me a little bit. Then he looked down my throat and he said, Mrs. Giuliano, you are suffering from chronic stress. You have worked so hard. Your body has got tireder and tireder, but you haven't listened. And your body has got to the place where it says, it's too tiring, we're not going to go anymore. And so your body said, we're going to stop. And he said, but there are 3 ways your body stops. One is this neck muscle, which instead of contracting and relaxing like your neck muscles do, it began to spasm, and that was the tightness I was feeling. He said the other two choices is a heart attack or a stroke. So he said, you're blessed because you've got the lesser of them. You've got the throat. And I went, you're kidding. I'm a strong person. Only weak people have chronic stress, surely. So how could this happen to me? All right, give me a tablet, make it go away. And he said, you have to change your lifestyle right now. If you don't change your lifestyle, you will have a heart attack or a stroke. When he said that, my husband and I were like, we can't believe this is happening. And then I began to feel my body, and I was so tired. Hadn't up to that point recognized I was dealing with stress. I looked okay. I was still doing everything, but I was tired. And for 3 months after that, I could hardly get up off the chair. I had to get people in to help with the housework. Just managed to get the kids off to school, and I'd lie down. I might cook a meal, lie down. And it gradually began to lessen in my throat, and it took about a full year to recover. During that year, I went through a lot. I went through a lot of mental stuff of, I'm a weak person. Surely, okay, I thought I was strong, but I'm not, I'm weak. And the devil would say, yeah, you are, you're a failure, you're pathetic, you'll never speak again, that's the end of you, no one will ever listen to you again. And I had to explore why I was doing what I was doing and how I was doing. And I began to read about stress and burnout. And you know what I discovered? It's not weak people that go into burnout. It's people, especially in the caring profession, who really care and keep on giving. And they're the ones that go into burnout. So how many of you are in or would like to be in the caring profession, where you are ministering to people, helping people, whether it's in your work or your ministry? How many of you are like that? All right, well, listen up so you don't end up like I did back there, okay? Because people that truly care, people that love others and give to others, are always in danger of getting stressed. So I learned lots of stuff, and that's what I'm sharing tonight from some of that stuff. So, what is stress? It's a physical, emotional, and mental response to pressure or to something that demands our attention. Now, those of you that were here over the last 2 days, what does that definition remind you of? The grief. Because grief is the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual response. You could also add spiritual in here. But stress is the response to pressure or something that demands our attention. It's the feeling of being overwhelmed or unable to cope with mental or emotional pressure. And I like this definition here. So stress is when the demands upon you outweigh your ability to meet those demands. So have a look up here. Okay, so when demands for your time, for your attention, for your love, of your resources, anything, outweighs what you've got, you're going to feel stressed. And the ideal world is that the demands and the resources are in balance. Yeah, but it's not often we live with a full balance. And if you ever had more resources than the demands, you would be bored, okay? So what we're trying to do is whenever we find that there's more demands on us than the resources, we try to get back to here. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So what are some of the demands on us right now? Let's have some of you YWAMers who are used to answering questions. What do you think some of the demands on the local people around here would be? What are the pressures, the demands on them that they might not have the resources to meet? Yeah. Providing for their family, even the basics. Yeah. We were shocked. We went to the supermarket when we arrived and found the prices are the same as Australia, yet your wages are so much less. I'm thinking, how can you afford this? That's really hard. That causes stress. Yeah, what are some of the other things, the demands?
Clean water.
Clean water, yeah. So if they can't get access, especially in some of the villages, I was speaking to an engineer last night whose job is going around the villages trying to dig wells to find that fresh water. But how awful. We're so lost without water. What other demands are on people?
School. I already providing education for
Yeah, yeah. And right now, school term is starting, and some of the kids haven't got this school because their school's been damaged or the teachers are not here. So stress can be everywhere, and there's a lot of stress here right now on top of the normal stresses of life. So a bit of stress is good for us. So this is the diagram here, and say this is performance, and this is going along with this stress or the stress. A bit of stress makes you work harder. For example, those of you that have had exams, as exam time approaches, your performance increases so that you can get the exam done, yeah? And if you didn't have that deadline coming, you wouldn't have the stress and you probably wouldn't do it. So deadlines are good, yeah? So deadlines make us work hard to get to this area. The trouble is when the stress keeps increasing and increasing and we can't meet it, we start to decrease in our performance. So if you don't deal with stress, you actually don't do as well, which is why we really have to try and not live in the stress zone. What is this here? It's where things begin to go bad. One of the symptoms, although I'm going to show you lots of symptoms and you're going to judge yourself where you're at, one of the things is something called free-floating anxiety, which means you can be sitting, watching the TV, everything's fine, and suddenly you feel, I just feel so tense. Why am I tense? I'm watching Bambi on the TV. Why am I feeling tense? It's your body's stress response actually kicking in because you're at this point here. So it's just one little clue that something is going on. But we're going to have a look at these stress symptoms here. So stress can be good. It can make you work well. Too much stress is not good for us. Okay. When you get stressed, your body goes into the fight or flight response. Are you familiar with this? Yeah? Okay. So for those that might not be familiar with it, this is how it works. And this is how God wired us. God made us this way. If a mad dog just came running in through that door, all of us would have the fight or flight response happen to us, okay? You don't have control over that. It's a God-given response to keep us safe. But if I see that mad dog, I go, oh my gosh, there's a mad dog. I'm the trainer. I should look after all of these. I better go and fight. Yeah, so I'll run over, and to fight, my body goes through a whole lot of changes we're going to have a look at. Or I go, oh my gosh, there's a mad dog, but he looks far stronger than me, so I'm going to run out the door and you go and fight, but I'm flighting out of here, okay? And so you'd have the same changes as me, but you're probably more likely to get the wild dog. So if something bad goes happen in that door, will you fix it? You will? That's lovely. Thank you very much. Okay. Then there's another little aspect that they've introduced to this, which is the freeze response. And it's probably what a lot of us would do is like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get that wild dog. Not the ladies. We're not going to go for We're not going to get the wild dog, and we're not going to run. I don't know what to do. And when we don't know what to do, we freeze. Now you think, well, how does freeze work? Let me tell you another illustration. For those of you that have a boss, okay, at work or somewhere in your organization, if that boss is a real pain in the neck. You might love to fight them, but hitting your boss is not a good thing to do, so don't do that. You may like to run away from the boss, but you may lose your job, so that's not a good thing either. So you freeze, you're stuck. And all of those responses will cause the stress response in you. So let me show you, there are short-term and long-term. Short-term things are great. This is what happens in the short term. The first thing that will go is your heart. It will, your mind will tell your heart, danger, danger, stress response. And your body, and you can Google this for all the technical terms, will start to change. Your heart will start to beat faster, to pump the blood and oxygen to your muscles. It wants those muscles to be strong in your arms and your legs and the back of your neck to hold up your head, to be alert, to be strong, to fight or flight. Okay, so that starts pumping. Because it's now pushing blood to the arms and the legs, it will take the blood from your digestive system. So your digestive system will slow right down in order to look after your arms and legs. It will also throw blood to your brain to make you feel alert, so you can look to see what is the best thing that you can do. Your breathing increases, you start to breathe deeper so you can get the oxygen going over there. And so all those things are fantastic. But if we don't fight or flight, or if we stay in that stress mode for a long time, it starts to damage us. So how does it damage us? In that short term, by the way, there are sweaty hands and tremors. And I reckon when the earthquake came, some people would have started shaking. You know, when I go to ambulance scenes, that's one of my jobs as a chaplain, I get called to the worst of the worst. So I don't get called to the normal accidents or death scenes. I only go if it's complicated deaths, murders, suicides and all of that. And when I get there, there are often people just shaking. That's part of their stress response. But if we don't deal with the stresses, and maybe it goes on for a few months or longer, this is what begins to happen. The heart, if it's continuously aroused, will start to have palpitations and may go out of rhythm, or it will affect your blood pressure. And often people with blood pressure have had prolonged periods of stress before that. Not always, could be other medical reasons, but it's one of the results for the heart. Then in the lungs, that you may start to feel breathless and sighing. You know, it's interesting, my mother-in-law died just 7 weeks ago. And as we did the dying journey with her, especially at the end, and then she died and we were preparing for the funeral, I was always going, and I'd catch myself. And I thought, but I know what it is. It's the stress, the grief, and I'm sighing. And I would do it all the time. Yeah, I thought, okay, I'm stressed, got to look after myself. You start to get muscles aching. So the leg muscles, the arm muscles are ready to fight or flight, and you're not doing any of that. So they're getting full of bad chemicals and are aching. And also one of the signs, a very common sign, is the shoulders. Oh, my shoulders and all my lower back. That's where a lot of us carry the stress. It's just a good thing to look out for and wonder if we are stressed as well. Then the immune system is affected, and so people can come out in cold sores. Every time I see people with a cold sore, I think, okay, there might be a story behind that. Occasionally it's just simply the germ, they've cut the lip or something, but a lot of the time cold sores will come when you're stressed. Yeah? Or rashes come on people's body. So when my neck had gone, I had a lot of pimples just came out here. Just so interesting that they were in the same area. They were a result of my immune system being compromised, and the digestion gets affected. So people begin to have irritable bowel syndrome. Do you know what that is here? Okay, it's when certain foods they just gets triggered and people have diarrhea or they get constipated. but that is a big symptom of stress happening, and people's sleep patterns get so affected. Now, in the short term, stress is okay. You can cope, but you don't want stress to go on month after month after month. You need to do something. So that's the bad news. Okay, now I want you to look at this. I'm not going to get you to answer publicly, but I want you to look and see how many of them in the physical ones you could tick off, how many here, how many here, how many there. Okay? And if that, just have a little look. Are there any of those you don't understand what they are? Because I'd love to explain if you don't know what they are. And if you haven't brought your glasses, I'm sorry. We are very happy to give you our PowerPoints. And if you do want the PowerPoints, where's Katie? Did she just disappear somewhere? Helen, maybe we can, the pads, actually there's already a notepad, Katie, there's a notepad and pen there. If you want the PowerPoints afterwards, please put down your email address and we'll get them to you. Just write clearly, okay? We can't read doctors' writing or anything like that. Okay, so you've had a little look at this. Now, if you've only got one in each box, okay, you can get away with that. If you start to get 2, 3, 4 in a box, or 2 or 3, time to do something about it. Stress is already beginning to take a toll on you. Now, it might be slightly higher right now because a lot of you are recovering from the disaster, and so you're likely to be in a position of higher stress than normal. But I want you even to think, before the earthquake, how was I? And if before the earthquake you were in a lot of that, it's probably time that you do something about it. Here's another one. I'm not going to go through all of that, but you can have a little look, take a photo, and again have a look to see how much of that am I going through. These are tools just to judge yourself. How you going? Up here in the cognition, what it means is that you can't think so clearly, that making decisions is hard, and you might find your memory being affected or having a lot more mental blocks of, oh, I can't think of the word, I can't think of the name. Now, if you're an older woman, that could be menopause, so that's cool, all right? But if it's not menopause and you're not pregnant, then that could be stress. So all of those. Okay, so you can judge yourself on that and see how you're going. Any questions on that so far? Feel free to ask questions. I will get you to talk in groups soon. Any questions? Please don't be afraid to ask questions. No? Okay. All right. Ooh, I'm too far away. Oh, I think that just, okay. So what happens if we find that we are being stressed? So this has saved my life time after time. When I started to study stress and to look at different tools that were around, I thought this is the one that I need to be doing all the time. So what does it mean? If I realize I am stressed, I've got to do something about it. How do we deal with it? First of all, you've got to identify the thing that's causing you stress. We call it a stressor. It's really good if you recognize you are stressed. It's really sad if you are stressed but you don't recognize it, okay? And so, first of all, identify what is causing me stress. And then you have to explore the options to deal with the stressor. You're going to try and find plan A, plan B, plan C. What are the choices that I've got to deal with that stress? Now, if it's hard and you think, I can't even think of a plan A, that's when you could talk to other people. Maybe talk to someone you trust. Definitely talk to God. James 1 verse 5 says he gives wisdom to those that ask. It's been my verse all my life. If you lack wisdom, ask of God who gives liberally without reproach and it will be given you. And so I'm so grateful that God is there to give wisdom. He will give you some ideas. Other people can give you ideas. You can even read books to get ideas, okay? You can go to the internet and just see the ideas. There is a whole world out there of ideas to solve your problem. I can almost guarantee that your problem is not the first time in the entire world's history, okay? Other people that have gone through it, there are answers out there. So you look at the options, and then you begin to work on what you see is the best option. And after a while, you've got to look up and go, okay, is this working or not? If it's working, well, thank God, because if it's working, your stress is decreasing. If it's not working, go to plan B. Try something else. And again, after a little while, judge that as well. And so by doing that, actively looking for answers, you can manage a lot of stresses. So for example, what were some of the stresses here? Providing for the family, yeah? So say the stressor is, I don't have enough money for my family. What would be some of the options someone with not enough money could do? They could rob a bank, not a good option. They could do petty crime, not a good option. Okay, that's an option, but not a good one. What could they do that is good? They could try for some part-time work or some extra work, see if there is work around, which is going to be a challenge because there's not a lot of work, is there? Okay, but that's an option. Maybe they could try to find some work. Maybe they could try bartering. I've got 10 mangoes fallen off my tree, I'll swap it for 2 sausages with you or something. You know, it's a bartering, yeah? So you start to be creative. What are some of the ways I can make money? Can I do craft? Can I clean someone's house? Okay, what can I do? So they look at the options and then they consult with others. So they go to Pastor Helen and say, Pastor Helen, you're full of wisdom, give us some ideas. She's already freaking. James 1:5, you can do it, Helen. Okay. But anyway, you can ask others. And then if you decide, actually, I'm going to try to find some extra work, they start working on it. And they go knocking on doors. Can I mow your lawns? Can I do something? And if they can get some more income, just a little bit more to help, fantastic. They've pulled down that stressor. If they can't find part-time work, they have to look for another option. Sell one of the kids or something like that. Yeah? Maybe not a good option. So anyway, so it's not always easy, and no one's saying it's easy because you wouldn't be stuck if it was that easy. But by following that plan, it gives you a tool to look and try and address the stressor. But there is sometimes when you can't remove the stressor. For example, if your stress is because you got injured in the earthquake and maybe you lost a leg, well, you can't grow another leg. So you have to learn to adjust to life without that leg and learn ways of coping with your new lifestyle. And if you've lost a loved one through death or a broken relationship, you may not be able to change that. So you have to then adjust to what we've been covering in the seminar so far as a new normal. But it's not easy. It's a process of grief to get there. And if you want to know more about that, well, get our notes and put your name down and we'll send you our grief notes as well. So that's one tool that really does work, and I practice that all the time. Any questions about that tool? Because I might get you to, actually, yeah, we're doing good. All right, just for yourself for 3 minutes, think about one of the stresses in your life right now. Follow that tool and see if you can come up with some ideas. You don't have to share this with anyone, just you. If you want to write it down, think of what is a stress in your life right now, what is the option to deal with it, and which one are you going to work on. I will not be asking you to share it publicly, so just work on it. Do you have a question?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. What is your question?
Okay. Thank you very much. My question is, we talked about stress.
Yep.
What about a girlfriend and a boyfriend? Like they were getting together, and then someone was walking another way with them. Maybe a girl was too worried and tried to answer her. Is that stress?
Oh my gosh, that is a huge stress. And tomorrow, Pastor Ralph is going to talk about mental health, and he's going to bring in some of the suicidal ideation as well. So tomorrow, because that is a growing problem I hear here. In Australia, it is a big problem, and suicide is never an option for a Christian. And it shouldn't be an option for anyone, because suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. In other words, it's so permanent, it ends the life, but most problems can be solved if people work at it. So suicide's not an option, and Pastor Ralph will cover that tomorrow. Okay? Thank you for being brave to ask that question. I really appreciate that. Yeah. Okay, let's just move on to... Come on, baby. Okay. I said that, sometimes you can't deal with stresses. What can you do? Well, just here, you can practice Philippians 4, 6 and 7, which is down here. It says, do not worry about anything. That tense there is do not keep worrying, because God knows we will get anxious. But it actually says do not keep being anxious, but do something about it by praying, talking to God. Tell God your needs. Don't forget to thank Him for His answers. And if you do this, you will experience God's peace, which is far more wonderful than the human mind can understand. His peace will keep your thoughts and your hearts quiet, at rest, as you trust in Christ Jesus. When I was recovering from my burnout, I read that verse over and over and over, and I dissected it. I studied every little phrase until it became a part of me. And then what I learned, every time I would feel anxious, every time my throat would tighten, it's like, oh, I'm stressed. Okay, do not be anxious, but tell God, God, this is what is happening. This has just caused me to stress again. God, I come to you. I'm so grateful you're listening. Please help me. You have the solution. Be with me. And I began to fight the stresses with that. And it was so true. It worked beautifully. So that's a great verse. I also read Psalm 139 hundreds of times, until it was part of me, that I realized He's with me. He is before me, behind me, around me. He has every day written. They were written before I was born. He is in control of my life. It helps me on disaster zones. I will not die 1 second until he says. And then when he says, your time's up, Anne, I cannot live 1 second longer. But my life is in God's hands. And so that came out of Psalm 139. Okay, so they're good verses. Praise and worship. Oh, because I think just about all of us in this room have faith. If you are here, you haven't got faith, well, that's all right. You take the concepts from us as well. But praise and worship is a way we just thank God. It lifts us up to another level and just helps us keep our eyes on God rather than the problem. Count your blessings. Look for things to be grateful for. There was a time when John and I, something had happened and we were just so heartbroken. And I can remember sitting on the floor and crying and thinking, this is just horrible. And I thought, I've got to be thankful. I am not thankful for anything right now. I thought, I've got to be thankful. So I began to thank God that I could sit on a carpet. And then I thought, and I'm grateful that there's nails in the carpet, holding the carpet to the floor. And when I got to that point, I did what you did. I started to laugh. It's like, oh, Anne, you're ridiculous. Get off the floor. You've got so much to be happy for. But counting your blessings is just so, so good. Take some time out for yourself. We're going to look at replenishing yourself in a minute, okay? Eating well. Oh, okay, cut down on the chocolate and the comfort food, whatever else that you might want. Watch that coffee intake, if that's your problem. Watch your caffeine. Please don't turn to alcohol for it. But try and eat well because your body needs good stuff. Okay, not bad stuff. Exercise. From what I've said so far, why is exercise good for you? Think of the stress response. Absolutely. If you didn't hear that, the muscles start to work out all those yucky chemicals that are stored in them. So by running, it's going, oh, we're fighting. That's fantastic. Or a quick walk. Yes, we're fighting. We can start to lower our stress response. So exercise is really, really good to keep healthy. Sleep. Oh, that is so important. But you know what it's like when you're stressed. It's so hard to sleep. Yeah, so get into a routine that helps you sleep, whether it's a bath. You wouldn't want a hot bath in Vanuatu before you go to bed. You just melt. Oh my gosh. Yesterday I melted because we were in a place with no aircon, and by the time the afternoon came, I hadn't had sleep for 2 nights and I melted in the afternoon. I was a mess yesterday afternoon. I'm great today. Okay, but get enough sleep. Have a good cry. Someone that was here today, why is crying good for you? Okay, answer the question, why is it good?
It heals your body.
Well, it helps to get rid of the tension in your body, but what's in our tears? Was anyone surprised to hear that? It's like an opiate. Actually, when you cry sad, distressed tears, your body releases in the tear like an opiate. And you actually sedate yourself. Which is why when you say, I had a good cry and felt better, you do. You've just drugged yourself. Isn't God clever? He's just put it in your tears. But those tears are different to happy tears. So when you cry happy tears, you don't have that bit in them. And if you think, I've never heard that before, just go and Google it, how tears are made, and you will see there's one website says there's 26 different types of tears, so yeah, very good. You've got to work out the priorities of your life, and we're going to get to that. You've got to learn to say no. Anyone have a problem saying no? Yeah, the people pleasers. Okay. Okay, say after me, no. Okay, you've got to have boundaries in place. And I'm going to talk to you in a minute why you need to say no, okay? Oh, and lighten up. If you're a I see everything negative person, or you haven't got a sense of humour, just try and look for one. Really make life a lot more exciting. I think as you get older, we start to realize, who cares? It's not that important anyway to do certain things. Some things are very important, but other things, if your hair goes nuts, who cares? If you make a hole in your clothes, who cares? If you cut your finger on the way to speak tonight and you got blood dripping everywhere, who cares? I care. You don't care. I care. It hurt. But, it's like, who cares? So let's lighten up a bit. And speak with somebody, if you can, a safe person that you can trust with what you're feeling. Because if you can do that, that will really lighten your load. Okay. Oh, that did not come out in this light. That is a website, if you want to know more about self-care, stress and burnout. That is a brilliant website. Google it and it's got everything on it that you need. So can you see it? It's headingtoninstitute.org. Okay, much better over there. Again, we'll send you the PowerPoints if you want them. That's got so many resources. Actually, the internet is brilliant now. There's so much on the internet. And then this one is fantastic too. For overcoming anxiety, a beautiful Christian website called Anxious Faith. It has devotions, it has beautiful Christian resources on it that will help you overcome stress and anxiety. So let's just quickly move on to, looking after yourself, especially when you're helping others. So you're in the caring industry, might be in the disaster, might be your ministry, YWAMers, when you go into your ministry there, how are you going to look after yourself while helping others? Okay, God expects you to look after yourself. So for the people pleasers in the room, Jesus totally took it for granted that we would look after ourselves. Why? Because he says this. Jesus says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, your mind, and your strength. Brilliant. The second commandment is this. Love your neighbor. Would you like to read it? So he's taken it for granted. Love others as you love yourself. In other words, well, you've got to love yourself just as much as you're loving the people around you. And that includes saying no and a lot of other things as well. So Jesus took it for granted that we would look after ourselves. If you have a problem with it, there's great books out called Boundaries by Cloud and Townsend. Who's read that book? Great, you have? Read it again. Okay. It empowers us to say no. Yeah? Because it's saying if you say yes to things you shouldn't be doing, then you'll be saying no to the things you should be doing. And we've got to learn not to be people pleasers. Do I have time for stories? Yes, I have. So, about 25 years ago, it was after the Port Arthur massacre. Some of you have no idea. It was the worst massacre in Australia, in Hobart. At Port Arthur, a man went mad and shot 36 people and killed them. Worst massacre. After seeing that, I really felt I needed to train as a chaplain. So I began to train. I did my grief counselling and then started to train as a chaplain. Back then, our movement, which was the AOG, didn't really have many chaplains at all. They had no interest in chaplaincy, and so it was not on my radar. But after doing grief counselling, I still don't feel trained to help in disasters, I thought, Salvation Army do chaplains, I'll go and do that chaplaincy thing at our local hospital. I loved it, and so I said to our movement, we need chaplains. We've got to do something for chaplains in our movement. And that is when they said, well, Anne, you go and start chaplains in our movement. So I did. And Chaplaincy Australia was birthed. And Ralph, the other trainer, is now the national director. But I founded it and are still very much involved with it. And we have 1,000 chaplains in our network, which is fantastic. But I started it, but it's unknown. It was like knocking my head against a brick wall for a while, and I just felt God was saying to do it. But all my peers of churches equal to our size and our friends, all the lady pastors there were doing women's ministry. And so they'd say to me, Anne, what's your ministry, your women's ministry doing? And I'm like, I actually don't have one. They just look at me. I'm doing chaplaincy. Chaplaincy? Isn't that a job for people that can't be pastors? All right. So I had a choice. Do I stay on course and be a God pleaser, or do I get influenced by my peers and just go into women's ministry, although it was no longer my passion? But again, we got to say yes to God and no to the things that were not right. And I'm glad that I made the choice, because now chaplaincy is so on our radar and across Australia on our radar. What if I hadn't done it? What about you? What if God is asking you one way, but people are trying to influence you the other way? Don't do it. Stay faithful to the call of God. You beautiful young YWAMers, stay faithful to the call of God. Don't let anything distract you, because when you're in the will of God, you will be satisfied. Anything less is not going to satisfy you. Yeah. So anyway, you've got to love yourself, Jesus says. And then, okay, just a reminder, in this time of disaster recovery, you can't help everyone, but you can help someone. The starfish story is of a little boy. He went on the beach in Vanuatu, and there were thousands of starfish washed in, and they're drying in the sand. They're dying. And so the little boy gets one and throws it in the water, and he goes down and gets another one and throws it back in the water. And this man, this cynical old man, came and went, "Kid, what are you doing? There's far too many. Just leave it alone." And the little boy said, "Say that to the ones I've just thrown back in." In other words, you can't help everybody, but for the ones you do help, it's going to change their life. So let's do that. So keep that as a reminder. Another reminder is, Jesus cares more for the people around you than you do. He is the chief shepherd. Okay? You're just someone helping him, but he's the chief shepherd. And so there is one Saviour of the world, and you're not him. I so like that saying. Yeah, just to remind yourself, it's Jesus' problems more than yours. Okay? All right, and we have been covering, for those of you that have been here, this is the grief journey, the training there. It is a journey, and it's going to take time. So be kind to yourself in all your helping of others. And remember, you're likely to be in the stress response right now if you live in Vanuatu, because you've been heightened because of the disaster. But if you're going through stress, always be aware of that stress response in you. But I do want to get this. Oh, if you do realize you're in stress, here is one tool. And I was so thrilled today when we were doing, is that man here? The one that, he's not here today? We had a time of group work, and he quoted this back. It's like, oh, he listened. Okay, this is a quick tool for you. If you recognize you're stressed, first of all, stop, be still, and go, okay, I'm being stressed. I've got to do something about it. The next thing is, take some deep breaths. You think, oh, we've heard that before. Honestly, it works. I do it all the time. And I'm an old, seasoned person in this now, and it helps me. So the first night we were here, and I'm lying in bed going, oh, if I get an aftershock, I'm going to have to just dash out the door there. I'm thinking all these things. It's like, this is ridiculous. You're not sleeping, Anne. And so I started to do the deep breathing. And deep breathing means in slowly for about 4 seconds, just, and by the time you get to about the 4th one, your brain starts going, oh, she's relaxed. Everything's okay. We can start calming down and going to sleep, or just simply calming down. You trick your brain. Try it. We use it in the ambulance all the time with people in trauma, and we can get them to de-escalate their emotions because of breathing. So give it a go. It works. And O is for I will be okay. Now you may want to say, God, you've got it. I will be okay because you're in control. But you've got to be positive. If you stay negative, of, oh, we're all going to die, we're going to fall apart, it's not going to help you. So you've really got to align your thoughts with, we're going to get through this. Other people have got through it, we're going to get through it. And P is for, well, phone someone. In other words, contact someone, talk to someone about it. Pray either by yourself or get someone to pray with you. And just keep a positive attitude. That little tool in itself will help you to overcome some stress. It really works. Okay? This is really important. You've got to recognize and process your feelings. Oh, we've covered a lot of that, and I'm sorry if you haven't been here. Tomorrow we'll probably cover it again. You can't ignore feelings. You've got to deal with them. So those of you that have been here the last couple of days, if you don't process it, what's it like? Oh, you've been listening really well. You're a good girl. Okay, you tell them.
Oh, it's like rotten food in your gut. Rotten.
Yeah, the mold. So the illustration I used was, if I have a loaf of bread and I put it in the corner in a box and leave it there for 3 months, what's going to happen to that bread? It's going to be moldy and disgusting. So what happens if you have emotions and instead of working through them, you stuff them down, put a lid on it and going, no, I'm not going there, that's too painful. They go moldy. They start to influence your entire being. They start to colour the way you look at the world. And that's why, do you know anyone that's cynical? That's a big word. Do you understand the word cynical in the language here? No? How could I say the word cynical? Anyone that's negative, yeah, nothing pleases them. You tell them something good and it's, yeah, but, yeah? They usually have moldy insides. They haven't dealt with stuff. Okay, so not physically, I'm talking about, the mental stuff. But it's usually because they haven't dealt with stuff well. They haven't worked on the emotions. And it comes out in a negative way. So you have to look at your feelings, and if you're not good at it, try and get someone to help you with it. But we need to recognize what we're feeling, take them to God and ask for his help. That is the way that we'll really keep healthy. And God says it. He says, you desire truth. This is in the Psalms. Says, you, God, desire truth in the inward parts. Because we can pretend, no, I'm feeling fine. Thank you very much. And God's going, no, you're not. You are so cranky even with me, and you're not being honest. And I can't help you until you stop being cranky and you let me in, or let me in to help you stop being cranky. So God wants us to be honest. And every time I'm honest with God, he's never been angry back. He's gone, okay, I'm glad you're honest, Anne. Now I'm going to help sort you out. And in that way, hopefully, I'm still sweet. I don't want to be a angry, bitter old lady. I want to be a nice, sweet lady that you want to be around. But that doesn't just happen, because we all have stuff that happens to us. But it's the way we respond that's going to determine who we are. Okay. So do what replenishes you. Can my scribe, can you do it? Okay. What does that mean? When you're giving out and helping others all the time, you can empty yourself of just strength and sometimes joy. So you have to do things that make you feel good about life. So simple things is like exercise, really good. Who's the exercise junkies here? Anybody love walking? Yep, we got one, we got two, oh, not too many. Okay, 3. All right. You're not sure if you are or not? Okay. All right. And then swimming. Oh, I love swimming. You've got warm water. How warm is our swimming pool here, Helen? It's about 30 degrees. It's like walking into a bath. It's beautiful. Okay. What other things can you do Actually, and not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, what do you do to make you feel better? Baking, yay! You must have lots of friends because, like, yeah. And they're all praying for you to feel stressed so you can bake more. Yeah? Okay. Cooking. Who would get really stressed at cooking? Yeah. But if others enjoy it. Okay, what else? What do you do? What do you do to make yourself feel better? Listen to music. Oh yeah, who's the music people? Love to put your music on. Yeah, lots more hands and exercise. Need to put dancing music on so then you can do both at once. Okay. What else? Come on, just yell them out. Colouring in, fantastic. You can get books now that for adults that are just colouring in. Absolutely. Beautiful, creative, lovely. Thank you. Okay. Sport. Yay, way to go. Who's the sporty people here? All right, a few more takers on that one. Beautiful. Yep. Reading, absolutely. Beautiful. Watching movies? Cool. Have a cuppa with your friends. Beautiful. That's one of mine. Yep. Gardening. Anyone into gardening? Okay, gardening. What else we got? What? Oh, gardening's yours. Flowers. Yeah. Do you know what? I was loving these flowers. And then I felt them and they're plastic. It's like, well, they're not real. They're plastic. They're too good to be real. Really? Are they real? They are. They're magnificent. Because I thought they were real and I felt them and went, no, they're plastic. I'm not convinced. I will check after I finish talking. Did you just rip them off? Okay. Well, they are stunning. Okay, flowers. So sorry. I love your flowers. Even though they look like plastic flowers because they're so good. Are they in water? I thought that was just to make them look real. Okay. Okay. Stunning flowers. I wish I could take them home. All right. Any more? Two more. What do we do? Pray. Pray. Fantastic. Absolutely. Praying is good. And the last one. A what? Okay.
I was just saying he's a good Christian.
He's a good Christian. Absolutely. Watch your show. Okay. All right. So you have to have something. Now, if you were sitting here going, I don't know if I like doing anything, maybe it's time to look for something that will replenish you. I do jigsaws and crosswords. I love them. Yeah? But you've got to find something that you like, not what you hate. Okay, so you need to replenish and fill your cup. Okay, can I give you a reminder? Grief does add up. So if you, through this time, are going, I don't want to hear another disaster story, maybe you just had enough and you need to pull back. Maybe the stress levels are saying no. If the phone rings, you think, I don't want the phone to ring anymore. I've had times as a pastor when it's like, don't anyone else ring me because my cup's full, I can't deal with anything else. Now I have a team, it's great, they get the phone calls. But if you dread it, that's a sign that maybe you've had too much grief and stress. Are you constantly feeling sad? If you are, you've got to deal with that. Do you feel empty, that you've got nothing left to give? Yeah. I remember at a certain point when my mother-in-law was just about to die and I was really caring for my family and thinking, I hope nobody in our church has a crisis because I have nothing for them right now. But I understand grief, I understand stress, and it was like, but I'm normal. So anything that comes up, the team's going to handle it because right now I need to be the grieving daughter-in-law. Yeah. So, yeah, you need to recognize that. And if you want to just hide away, left alone, not get out of bed in the morning, symptoms of, oh, there's some stresses going on there that I really need to deal with. Because it's the key. If you can recognize you're stressed, you can then work on it. If you don't recognize it, and these things are happening but you don't know why, it's going to really hurt you. So you need to do something. And when you've had enough, if you're out with somebody and you think, oh, I'm just too tired, well then, make some excuse and go home. Yeah? Don't just keep giving out when you've had enough. You really need to take care of yourself. Recognize that in testing times, your faith might be tested too. So there were people brave enough in this room over the last couple of days to say, yeah, I'm a bit angry with God. I'm trying to work out why this happened. And we've been trying to address that over the seminar and to see, is that a true anger? Is that the right place for it? But your faith might be tested. And when you help others, there will be some times when your faith is tested. I remember, because I believe that Jesus heals. I believe he died on the cross to bring healing. But I did the dying journey with a friend. Her daughter was 3 and she got cancer. We did the journey for a year and then the daughter died. And we had fasted, we had prayed, we had confessed, we had done everything, and the little girl died. And so I was helping my friend, and it was like, so do your scriptures really work, Jesus? Is there healing as well as salvation? And I had to really go through. But you know what I learned? That made me stronger. And I didn't just deliberately take things that I'd been taught since from a child, but I had to come and find the truth for myself. And now I apply that to everything that I believe. It's like, why am I believing it? And it's okay. I find the answers like, oh, that's why I believe it. Thank you, God. And it just makes me stronger. So if your faith is ever tested through what you go through times of stress, through times of grief, it's okay. And if the people around you are going, I'm actually questioning, be a safe person that you can say, let's explore it together. Because if you say to them, you shouldn't be asking those questions, what do you think would happen? Would she come back to me and tell me her questions? It's like, up goes the wall. I'm not talking to you anymore. You don't understand. I was brave enough to tell you I had a problem, and you cut me down, so I'm not going to tell you. And there's too many isolated people afraid to speak the questions because we can answer too quickly. And Pastor Ralph really met that well this morning, didn't he, when in his teaching? Got to be slow to speak and very easy to answer. So your faith might be tested, and you might even be angry with God. So since we've been doing the seminar, you'll be amazed how many people come and just say, we have had some difficulties with this, but we haven't been able to tell anyone. And so they're being honest with us, okay? But the big thing is to recognize it. Because if you don't do something about it, this is what happens. What's your name? Amanda. Beautiful. Okay. So Amanda and I, we're good friends. And then Amanda does something and I think, I don't like that. If I don't deal with it, what will happen to our friendship? I'll start pulling away. And I won't be ringing Amanda so much anymore. And I won't be having coffee with Amanda. I'll make other friends because I don't like what she did. I don't understand why she did it, but I'm not talking to her about it. And our friendship is wrecked. It's the same with God. If underneath we are angry at God, but we're not allowed to say it, then, okay, I can't be angry with God. I'm not allowed to be angry with God. That's not what the psalm says. But anyway, I'm not angry with God. So I've got a need. And your subconscious goes, but why would you trust him if you're angry at him? So go and get someone else to pray, and bit by bit, our relationship with God gets cooler. And people get cool because they're not working out what's going on between them and God. And you say, Anne, how can you get angry with God? Oh yeah, I got angry when my son walked away from Jesus I got angry. He's like, how could you do that? The one thing that I wanted was all my kids to love you, and I've got one that is a prodigal, and he's still a prodigal. Have I been angry about that? You bet. Have I been broken hearted over it? You bet. But one day he'll come back, and we'll have a story to tell. But I had to work through it. I don't understand. That was the one thing I wanted. Why didn't you do it? And there's been other things. But when I ask God, he goes, I get it. I love you. I'll do the journey with you. Come on. And he just deals with my anger, and then it's okay. And I can get back close again and have that relationship again. So don't be afraid of letting your emotions out. And don't be afraid of dealing with it. Okay? This might be new to some of you. Sorry, we're going to do some workshops in a minute. Okay. And commit that situation that you're dealing with into God's hands. Remember, he's the chief shepherd. So if you've been with somebody and you're stressed over it and you're leaving them and you think, oh, what am I going to do? Go, God, they're now in your hands. You're the chief shepherd. I'm putting them in your hands. So Amanda's got the problem, and Lord, as I leave, you don't tell her this, but Lord, I'm just leaving Amanda in your hands now. And Amanda's problem is not coming home with me. It's in your hands. So you may pray. If you're in a car or on your bus or something as you go, you can be praying all the way, Lord, I'm leaving that there. As the distance is coming between me and her, I'm leaving it, so I'm not taking that home. Then when you get home, you have to, again, remind yourself, I got to stop thinking about that. I've given it to God. God, Amanda's in your hands. And you keep handing it over. But sometimes it's really tough to do that. I have many situations where it's really tough. So what do? It's my letting go ritual, which is, and this works. So you may think it's weird, but try it next time. Okay, because chaplains all over the world do this. I'm just going to use you again, Amanda, is that all right? Okay, so Amanda's really got a desperate situation. I've been with her, I've given her everything I've got, I've prayed with her. Now I'm going home. I'm all the way home. Lord, I leave Amanda in your hands. You're her shepherd. I get home, I'm lying in bed. Oh, Amanda, oh God, we look after Amanda. I brought Amanda's problem into bed. That is not a good thing. Okay. So I pick up anything. Okay, this is my pen next to my bed. So what I do, I get out of bed. You are Amanda's problem. So I go into the next room or in the bathroom. You're staying there. So now I go back to bed and I'm in bed and my brain goes, what about Amanda's problem? Amanda's problem is in the bathroom. I am not allowed to think of that. You think, does that work? Oh yeah. Not the first time. So you go, it's in the bathroom, not going to think about it. Next time the brain does it, in the bathroom, not allowed to think about it. After a little while, my brain goes, Amanda's, not allowed to think about that, and stops. Now, it so works that some of my chaplains get out of bed, they take something, they go out the garden, they go to the fence at the front door. No, don't use it, so they put it somewhere gentle and say, it's by the front door, it's not coming in the house. Or it's down by the tree in the garden and it's not coming in the house. So they go back to bed. Amanda's problem is coming. Nope, Amanda's problem is down by the tree. It's not allowed in my mind. It is not allowed in my bed. And you start to let go. And it works. Okay? So this is some of the training that we do. Just give it a go. You'll be amazed. I've had so many chaplains come and go, we thought that was weird. It actually works. Whoa, way to go. That's the secret. It's kept me safe for 44 years. You give it a go. All right. So, I want you now to get into groups together, okay, and discuss together, and you're going to give us feedback. What are some of the ways you can do to stay physically healthy? Because for you to live you won't be stress-free, a stress-controlled life, you've got to be good physically, mentally, and spiritually, okay? So quickly in groups, write down some ideas. What are you going to do to stay physically healthy? Not the person next to you. What are you going to do to stay physically healthy? Okay, quickly into groups of maybe 3 or 4, and you've got about 5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes, yeah.